Borderlands. What the f?
Hey, you don't say that.
What? I like the game. I was just saying that.
Back in my day, Borderlands, it was grittier and darker.
See?
More rough around the edges.
Yeah. He knows what's up.
There was far more shirtless midgets.
Not where I thought that was going.
Old Borderlands sucks, and it just wasn't colorful enough.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I liked about it.
And there just wasn't enough hot waifu moxie. Yeah. The midgets, they're just so hot.
Why are you both like this?
Oh, yeah.
Now, mind you, I'm an old geezer that's been following this game's development since its first announcement in 2007. It was described by Randy Pitchford as a Halo Diablo hybrid. Holy sh**. The thought of having a first-person shooter combined with the RPG elements and looting of a Diablo-like game had me fanboying all the way from the beginning. The game's first trailer was revealed in 2008 at E3, and this trailer set the tone for how I would forever view this game. Borderlands before launch had been set to be dystopian, gritty, dark adventure on an alien planet with a heavy focus on uncovering the mysteries of the vault. But one line in particular had every 17-year-old screaming out of their minds.
You won't last long here. Not without help. Not without guns. A hell of a lot of guns.
You had me at guns. Fast forward about 2 years to the game's official release, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you that I was one of those nerds that actually went to the GameStop and waited in line to pick up my copy of Borderlands on the midnight release for like 2 hours. Oh yeah, I'd like to turn in these 13 games for the new Borderlands, please. Ooh, that's an excellent choice, sir. Let me just check those for you. Oh, it seems your new price for the new Borderlands is $75. Right, but the game here says $70. Right, but you traded us 13 games, so you owe us $5 extra. No regrets. Anyways, once I got home and finally popped in the game to play for the first time, I had slight skepticism when I saw the cel-shaded graphics. What happened to the dark, gritty atmosphere I was promised years ago in the E3 announcement? Are you telling me that games don't look exactly like they did when they were originally announced? I was devastated. Until...
So, you want to hear a story, huh?
Go on. Okay, obviously I can't play all the music because of copyright purposes, but holy shit, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Forget the cel shading, forget the slightly more goofy character dialogue. The intro sold me on whatever Gearbox was selling. So now that I was replaying this game over the past week, I remembered exactly why Borderlands 1 was so special. Being dropped into the middle of nowhere on this semi-deserted planet, not knowing what to expect, and the first thing you're greeted with is this little Claptrap fella. Let me tell you, Claptrap was so damn hilarious in the first game and easily one of the biggest highlights. Perfect balance of witty responses and quirkiness kept the humor pushing along while allowing other characters to still be semi-serious. This is what Borderlands 1 does better than the rest of the series, in my opinion. Character balance and distinction. The more recent Borderlands series has kind of been given the Marvel treatment where every character has to be funny. Hey gang, Thor and Captain America can just be serious characters. No need to make them Diet Tony Starks. Same here with Borderlands. Claptrap is easily at his best in this game, while at the end of the series he's just extremely over the top and annoying due to them making so many of the other characters also take on his goofy characteristics. Let's take Tannis for example. I can't say Patricia. It's a hard word. We all know her as a quirky and slightly out there character in most of the series, and I don't think anyone would argue with that assessment. However, just listening to some of these voice logs from the first game gives her a far more disturbing and practically insane set of characteristics.
Day 653. Today is my birthday. I've been alone for an incalculable amount of time. A convict accidentally crossed over into my encampment this morning, and I allowed him to look about before I shot him in the back several times. I was immediately filled with regret upon doing this, because the human contact, no matter how awkward, would have been nice. I've decided his name was Leslie, and he had a troubled childhood where people would make fun of him for having a girl's name.
I can remember my first playthrough of this game, and she was by far one of my favorite characters for this very reason. Someone who is devoid of normal human emotion and completely devoted to finding out scientific truth. Totally can relate. We began first learning about the vault and rest of Pandora through her lens, so it made us skeptical if we could trust what she was saying and kept things a bit ambiguous. Same goes for being guided by Angel the entire game. We didn't get her full story, or any story for that matter, and for me, it added a huge amount of mystery once I finished the game and saw the Hyperion satellite on the zoom out. Whew. Man, that was really fun. Heck yeah, it was. Hey mate, why did we murder thousands of people and then break into this vault?
But check me out.
Some chick said to.
Oh, come on, get down.
Good enough for me. The Vault Hunters were also treated a bit more mysterious, and it felt like we were learning things alongside them. We didn't quite know who to trust or how everyone was connected, so for each new discovery or interaction with a new character, always kept us on our toes. This made for some interesting missions, such as the Janistown mission with the Cobb brothers. In this respect, I feel like Borderlands kind of gave us the Dark Souls treatment when it came to its characters, giving us enough information to make our own inferences, but leaving a lot up to the imagination so that we're almost always second guessing our actions. All I wanted to do was phase shift with Lilith and leave my brother in the dust while he tried to catch up to me with slow ass brick. Well, except for when the game would bug out back in the day and his brick would be stuck running at insane speeds, even when he wasn't using his special ability. Roland, meanwhile, was just boring as hell. He's basically a Call of Duty character with a turret. Friggin' noob. At least Mordecai has a special pet Bloodwing that will forever be at his side. Right? Right? Hello, darkness, my old friend. Look, I personally prefer the less is more approach when it comes to characters in RPGs. That way we can slowly uncover things through multiple playthroughs rather than have it all spoon-fed to us on the first play, which then immediately impacts the story. Like I mentioned, Borderlands didn't originally have a grand overarching story other than our main focus was to survive this vicious and lawless planet and to uncover what was in the vault that we knew nothing about. Sometimes that's all you really need to set up an interesting adventure. I mean, just like my granddad used to say, the best way to create mystery is to give as few answers as possible. Actually, he didn't say that at all. He just watched Jeopardy, like all the time. While the story and characters weren't fully fleshed out, I would say it sometimes adds to a game's charm and often prevents plot holes or unintended disappointments in character arches, such as maybe somebody dying later on in the series and it just not making a whole lot of sense. Anyhow, the next thing I immediately noticed were the
guns. A hell of a lot of guns.
I was gonna say that. The guns here feel like actual guns.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
And not these oversized plastic toys. I'm looking at you, Borderlands 2.
Bars?
The gunplay was so satisfying, and also just seeing the damage numbers pop out on enemies was everything Fallout 3 wanted to be. Also bars. Quick zoom in and out while unloading rounds of your SMG into a bandit just felt so visceral. Again, I much preferred this style of gameplay where the guns felt real, especially in the beginning. Now, obviously as you move throughout the game, guns become far more creative and less realistic, but it still felt like you were firing real weapons. Majority of the guns in this game usually just shoot different types of elements, which isn't a huge stretch of the imagination. Some shoot unrealistically fast, others might catch enemies on fire, some may shoot out more than one bullet at a time. But again, it was basically a real life gun that has had things added to it, rather than thinking up some crazy contraption and figuring out how you can turn it into a gun. While the gunplay may be personal preference, I believe it has a direct effect on the feel of the game in terms of realism and overall ambience. Speaking of ambience, these character intros, ooh, this is it. Gearbox, congratulations, you've done it. You've done it. You've won the award for the coolest shit ever. Yeah, that's a real award. Just hearing that and seeing art with blood spatter and usually a funny quote has become incredibly iconic within the Borderlands franchise. These intros will never get old, and Borderlands was one of the first franchises that I remember doing this successfully. Since then, we've obviously seen it in more media such as comic book movies, one of them being Deadpool. I'm sure this has been done before, but I would like to pretend that Gearbox invented it. Let me know down below if there are other movies or types of media that have used this before and I'm just completely overlooking them. By the way, this is easily one of my favorite character intros in the entire series. Sorry. Just like the character splash screens, I would say the game intro has become a staple to the franchise. Again, Gearbox nailed this intro, utilizing the perfect song to really set the tone for the rest of the game. Ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay. I got mouths to feed. There ain't nothing in this world for free. You're welcome for that rendition of the song. I know I sounded exactly like the band, and because I would rather avoid copyright strikes, that's all you're gonna get.
And you'll like it.
Lastly, I would like to point out one of my favorite mechanics of any RPG, which is the New Game Plus mode. Borderlands 1 has this feature simply titled Playthrough 2. God, they're just so creative. Playthrough 2 lets you replay the main game and DLC while fighting more challenging enemies and collecting better loot drops. I usually instantly struggle to play any looter RPG when they don't have New Game Plus mode, but was definitely something I was not expecting to get from Borderlands. Being able to take your character over into a New Game Plus mode and unlocking more skills and stronger weapons really feels like a completely different playthrough than the first and drastically increases the playtime of the game. Gearbox, I salute you. I just can't really say much more than I simply love Borderlands 1. No, I don't think it's as polished as some of the later games in the series, but I do think it has far better direction and, to me, a more well-rounded aesthetic. That's not to say I don't like the remainder of this series, but to be honest, I'm sort of glad they're all vastly different in comparison. It keeps us from getting bored with the product and allows replays of each game to feel like a fresh and separate journey. I've put in hundreds of hours into this game, either solo playthroughs or playing with my siblings. So being able to play through this past week it's just been a real treat. Overall, I'll have to give this game 9 really cool, overly aesthetic character intro watermelons out of 10. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon members. I love you all more than you can imagine. If you would like to become a Patreon member or order some merchandise, you can visit the website for more info. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, I will be doing a Borderlands 2 video soon, so when that comes through, you can click it here.